All right, third grade. At the end of the Mola slideshow, I had 3 slides that showed you the basic shapes I drew to make 3 different kinds of animals. So you can see here 2 ovals, and then I guess a smaller half oval, and then kind of a rectangle shape with an oval at the bottom. Became a lion, a jaguar, a leopard when it's flipped over. A big oval with some flipper shapes. This is really just an upside down V with a wavy line, and this is kind of a triangle but a little bit rounded off. Same for this one. Became a turtle. And the one I'm going to work on right here in front of you is the fish one, and you can see I have kind of a football shape, triangle at the end, top fin, bottom fin. You of course can make any animal you want. Just remember to start with basic shapes. If you draw it on the back, when you flip it over, nobody will be able to tell. So I'm going to go ahead and put dot dot, not a lot of glue on this, and I'm gluing it to a second piece of paper. I happen to have colored construction paper at my house. If you don't, I'll be showing you a construction paper free option a little bit later. So here is my fish, and to start getting the look of the mola, I am going to take another color of paper, almost like they take a different color of fabric, and I'm going to cut some shapes. My fish is going to need scales, so I think it makes sense if I'm going to start cutting some scale shapes. I'm folding this paper twice, so I won't have to do as much work. And the scale shape is just going to be a half oval or circle, like this. I'm going to make my little pile over there. And I'm also going to make some of these in yellow. The other thing you're going to start to see me cut are some shapes for coral that are layered, an eye, some bone lines for the fin, and some bubbles. What you're cutting is going to, of course, depend on the animal you are creating. I'm going to go into time lapse because obviously cutting is going to take me a little while. Now, one of the things about molas that makes them look the way they do is a technique called reverse applique. It means there's a layer of fabric that's a little bit larger than the one underneath it. So to give you an example of how you would make this happen for your picture, I have a sheet of paper here, and when I trace this blue part, I'm going to trace it slightly larger than my first piece of coral. A person making a mola would be tracing a piece of fabric larger and putting the smaller piece on top of the larger piece. We're going to put the smaller piece of paper on top of the larger piece of paper. So you can see now I would be gluing these two together, and now it kind of has an outline in another color. It makes it stand out. It's part of what makes molas so colorful, almost like rainbow colored, because there's an outline of a different color around almost everything. I would say instead of trying to do this technique for every single piece, pick maybe 4 or 5 things that are going to have a reverse applique or larger colored outline around them. I'm going to go in time lapse while I kind of make those larger pieces and start gluing some things down on my work so you can see. So here is the paper part of my mola, and I'm sure when you were looking at the ones in the slideshow, you noticed that a lot of them have patterning and detail, like with stitching or small shapes within areas. So this next step, because Mrs. Heckendorf really gets into these things, and I have time right now to work on it, I'm going to take markers or crayons and add some of those patterns or details in on top of my paper shapes. And now I'm going to show you a lower paper use option for those of you that maybe are telling me you don't have construction paper at home or don't have as many options. I already had this turtle cut out, but I could have just as easily drawn it in the middle of the paper and colored it in. or I could color another piece of paper and then cut it out. But I'm going to use it since I already have it. And then I want to copy that idea of the reverse applique, having several layers of color around this. It's actually a little bit easier with marker because I'm not having to cut layers of paper and make sure they're a larger size. In this way, I can just trace right around here with the marker or crayon that I'm using. And so I can actually get a little bit more complex and fancy. I'm going to be going around probably with 2 or 3 different colors, and then I'm going to be adding some seaweed and details around my turtle. Again, I don't need to have paper to cut this out. I can go ahead and draw it and then kind of trace around it to create the same look as a mola. So I'm going to go into time lapse so you can see that happen a little bit more quickly. So you can imagine if I continued adding details and different parts of the environment around the turtle and kind of tracing around it with these colors and adding details, that I would have a whole finished mola. So whether you choose kind of the one piece of paper, marker, crayon option, or if you have access to construction paper, I would love to see what you do with this project and hear what you learned about Panamanian molas. All right, talk to you next time. Bye.